Okay, so now let's talk about trim, extend, and offset tools. So open this drawing, and once again you need to go to the sketch environment. So I'll go to the timeline and double click on this sketch icon, and this will take us to the sketch environment. Now I'll start with trim, and using trim command you can delete extra lines, arcs, and other curves which you don't need, and you don't need to make modifications or make exact curves. You can make these kind of overflowing curves, and you can then later on delete those using trim command. So the trim command is here in this sketch panel. Just go to that and select trim. You can also use its hotkey T. So I'm going to go to trim here, and now just hover your cursor over the part of the geometry that you want to trim, and that will highlight in red. Just click to trim it. So in this way, I'm going to trim all of these. It's pretty basic. Now, in a similar way, you can trim as many drawings as you want. Just hover your cursor and keep on clicking, and it will just trim the part. You can also click and hold your cursor and then drag your cursor around in the drawing, and then it will trim your drawings. So I'm going to just click and drag my cursor, and look at this. Now it will just trim the objects that even touch the boundary. So I'm going to carefully go to this one, and it's trimmed. Now I'll let go my cursor and I'll move inside and I'll trim this part. And here we have it. So this is the clean area that we have. Now the extend command will also work in a pretty similar kind of way, but in this case, instead of deleting any object, it will just extend its length. So I'm going to make a rectangle here, a rectangle outside this drawing, and now I'll extend some of the drawings. So I'll go to sketch, and here we have the extend tool. Now just hover your cursor over any of the drawing, and now look at this. It will extend it up to the next boundary. And the boundary need not be a visible one, because now if I just go to this one, look at this, it will extend it up to this boundary, although these boundaries are not yet visible. But if you extend this line, it will end up here, and that's a boundary which Fusion will consider. So I'm going to just click here, and now it will extend it up to this point. If you click again, it will extend it beyond that point like this. So let's press escape. I'm going to go to trim again, and I'll trim these lines. We don't need them. And let's get rid of this rectangle as well. So I'll select all these 4 lines and I'll delete them. Now we'll make an offset here, and just by making an offset, you can create an exact copy of your original object at some distance. So the offset tool is also here on the sketch tab, and you can select the shortcut key or the hotkey O for the offset tool as well. But in this case, I'll select offset tool from here. And now you can select individual curves, or you can also make a complete selection. So I'm going to go to this offset palette, and here I'll uncheck this option, change selection. Now I'll select this arc, and now we'll have an offset. So this is the offset geometry. You can increase or decrease the distance of this, and you can move it to other side as well, to this side as well if you want. You can flip the direction using this flip option as well. So click on this flip and it will flip the direction. You can add the offset value, which is the gap between original curve and the offset curve, using this field. So you can type the value here, or you can type the value right here as well. So in this case, I'm going to type a value of 10 unit and enter. And here we have the offset. But now instead of making just a single offset, I'm going to make an offset of this entire curve. So I'll select the arc and I'll delete it, and I'll type O for offset. And once again, we have the offset palette. Now I'll click on this change selection, and this will ensure that all the objects which are connected from end to end are selected. So now if I select this arc, it will select the entire curve because they are connected from end to end. And once again, you can make an offset either inside or outside. So let's make an offset inside just like this, and I'll add a distance of 2 unit or maybe 2.5 unit and enter. Alright, so here we have an offset. Now if you change the shape of this parent geometry, the offset will also update accordingly. So I'm going to just move this arc here like this, and look at this, the offset will automatically update. And that's because this offset constraint is added. Although we don't have an offset constraint here in the list of constraint, still Fusion will add the offset constraint and it will work accordingly. If you don't want Fusion to offset this drawing with respect to the original curve, then you can select the offset constraint and simply delete that. And now if you change the curve which is outside, it won't affect the offset which was made inside this drawing. And that's our offset tool.